All right, what's up, everybody? So, we're talking about the Mexican-American War. Now, we just covered the recap of all the drama that took place in Texas, and at the end of the day, Texas became its own independent nation when basically the Texas Army was able to capture Santa Anna, the leader of Mexico, and trade him back for Texas independence. Now, Texas stays an independent nation for almost 10 years, until 1845 when James K. Polk becomes the President of the United States. Now, people say that Polk was a humorless, hard-working president who had one goal, one plan, one thing in mind, and that was to complete manifest destiny. He wanted to expand the United States and make that final push to get us all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. But to do that, we would need a lot of territory that Mexico currently owned. Now, Polk didn't initially want to go to war with Mexico. That wasn't really the plan. Polk wanted California and New Mexico and hoped that he could purchase them from Mexico. But if they were not for sale, then he would take them by force. So, I mean, step one was to be cool about it. Step two was to be less cool about it. Now, the areas were currently not being used or even taken care of by Mexico. So Polk hoped, why would Mexico not want to come up on some money for some areas they didn't care about? But Mexico refused to even speak to the representatives from America. So they're like, nah, we're not even going to talk to you. Now, quick discussion question before we move on. Why do you think that Mexico would not even talk to the United States about selling their unused land? That seems kind of messed up. It's almost like there was some big drama between them in the years prior over another territory.
That's
Rhymes
weird.
with, yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird how that happens. War breaks out in Texas. So, when Congress voted to add Texas as a state, Mexico and the United States became enemies. Essentially, finally, after 10 years, America wanted to add in Texas. They wanted to bring Texas in as a state, and this just reignited the old flames between these two countries over the area we've been talking about for the last week, Texas. Mexico saw this as a legit act of war, and Mexico and the United States could not agree on the borders. If you take a look at this map right here, you can see that there's Texas, and there's Mexico, and then there's this area with the yellow and the purple lines. That's disputed territory. That means that both countries, when they drew up maps, they're like, no, my Texas goes to here. And then America's like, my Texas goes to here. And this whole red area, both countries seem to believe that that part is theirs. So to be more specific, Texas claimed the Rio Grande as its border on the south and west. Mexico wanted its border to be the Nueces River. These two rivers were about 150 miles apart from one another. So there was about 150 miles of land that both countries claimed. Now, the area in between the two rivers became known as the buffer zone. It was a zone that was patrolled heavily by each one's military, and they're just pretty much looking for one person to, pop off and go into that area. No one was allowed to enter this buffer zone. It was a big no-no. But of course, where would this lesson go if somebody didn't enter the buffer zone, right? Yeah, let's get there. All right.